Nobody officially announced it. There was no press conference, no depth chart update, no carefully worded statement from the front office dropping into your timeline. But if you've been watching this Cleveland Browns quarterback situation with both eyes open, and not just glancing at headlines, you already know. The job is Shedeur Sanders. The league just hasn't caught up yet. And here's the thing about how NFL organizations actually operate. They don't announce decisions. They signal them. Through the way coaches choose their words. Through where they put their money. Through who gets talked about with conviction and who gets talked about with polite, professional distance. If you know how to read those signals, and after today you will, this whole situation becomes crystal clear. Let's start with Todd Monken. He sat down and said every single thing a coach is supposed to say about a competitive quarterback room. He was measured. He was careful. He checked every box on the NFL media training checklist. On the surface, it looked like a man saying absolutely nothing. But the most important things Monken communicated, he communicated through the gaps between his words. Not what he said, what he didn't say and how he didn't say it. When Dillon Gabriel's name came up, the energy in that conversation flatlined. No specific detail. No film room story. No, there was this one moment in practice last Tuesday. Just professionally neutral language that coaches deploy when they've already made up their minds internally but can't say so publicly. That kind of deliberate blandness isn't indifference. In NFL speak, it's a conclusion. When a coach stops telling your story with genuine investment, that story is already over. Gabriel isn't a guy losing a competition right now. He's a guy who's already lost one, and the organization is quietly working out the logistics. His exit from Cleveland isn't a question of if. It's a question of timing and destination. Now Deshaun Watson. This part deserves a real, honest answer, because the comfortable, careful sugarcoating version doesn't serve anybody. Monken respected Watson. He acknowledged his football intelligence, his experience, his value as a presence in that quarterback room. And none of that was empty. But here's what Monken never once said, that Watson could be counted on to carry this offense through 17 games and into a playoff push. The framing around Watson's role was careful in the very specific way language gets careful when the people making decisions have already processed an uncomfortable mathematical reality and arrived at the only conclusion it offers. 19 games. That's it. 19 games over 5 years. You cannot build a sophisticated offensive system around a number like that. You cannot develop quarterback-receiver chemistry that takes months of daily repetitions to earn if those repetitions could disappear at any moment. The Browns have run that math. The answer keeps coming back the same way. Watson's real value to this organization now lives in a different category entirely. The veteran in the room, the experienced voice between series, the guy who can sit next to a young quarterback and offer something no amount of film study fully replicates. If he embraces that, Cleveland quietly has one of the better backup situations in the entire league. And from everything coming out of that building, it sounds like the right conversation already happened and the right answer was given. So remove Gabriel. Reposition Watson. What's left at the top of that depth chart? Shedeur Sanders. And don't let anyone tell you he got there by default. He didn't win this because the competition stumbled around him. He didn't win it because of his father or his draft position or his jersey sales, or any piece of the circus that followed him through this entire offseason. He won it the way quarterbacks consistently win jobs that aren't handed to them, by showing up, day after day in circumstances specifically designed to expose whether you're built for this or whether you're just pretending to be. When Gabriel was pushing competitive pressure from one side and Watson's veteran presence was reminding the entire room what experience actually looks like, Shedeur held his foundation. When the Dion narrative, and there were a lot of those, kept trying to knock him off balance, he kept building. Coaches don't care about the words a young quarterback says. They care about his behavior when the situation hands him every excuse to fall apart. Shedeur delivered one consistent message across an entire offseason. When this season gets hard, and it will get hard, I will not be your problem. I will be your answer. Monken received it. Now here's what makes this genuinely exciting, not just for this season but for what Cleveland could become. The Browns didn't just hand Shedeur a job and wish him luck. They built an environment around him. Spencer Fano at 9th overall. You don't spend a top 10 pick on a left tackle unless the quarterback you're protecting is your full commitment. That's not roster building. That's an organizational declaration. Fano brings the kind of footwork and pocket awareness intelligence that translates from college to the pros without the typical adjustment period. What that gives Shedeur is something most young quarterbacks spend years desperate for and never get: real, breathable time in the pocket. Not scramble or die time. Not panic throw time. Time to let his eyes move naturally through a progression, identify a second read, build the in-game confidence that compounds across a season rather than getting quietly bled away snap by snap. KCception adds something different. A route runner built specifically to attack tight man coverage, which is historically the coverage that makes young quarterbacks look bad. When a receiver consistently beats press at the line of scrimmage, a quarterback can identify that coverage is already broken before the play fully develops. Defensive coordinators can't just lockception down and dare Shedeur to beat them everywhere else. They have to respect it, and that respect opens up the entire field. The full picture? Shedeur Sanders is not being dropped into a rebuild and told to figure it out. He's being placed inside a system that was deliberately constructed to help him succeed while he grows, protected up front, armed with weapons that win in multiple situations, guided by a head coach with a genuine offensive mind, supported by a defense that can keep this team in games on the days the offense is still finding its footing. That combination doesn't happen by coincidence. It happens when an organization fully commits to a quarterback and builds everything outward from him. Cleveland has committed. If you want to stay on top of every development this season, every practice report, every depth chart signal, every piece of this story as it unfolds, make sure you're subscribed to Browns Today updates and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. The honest Super Bowl answer? Nothing in the NFL is guaranteed. Injuries happen. Bad stretches happen. The league's unpredictability isn't a disclaimer, it's structural. But here's what is true. Cleveland has constructed a better foundation for a young quarterback's development than most teams put together in a decade. The ceiling here is real. The commitment is real. And the player standing at the center of it earned his spot. The league doesn't know it yet, but they're about to find out.